There are two ways to be rich. One is by acquiring much, the other is by desiring little. Now, when we're thinking about simplicity and happiness, simplicity involves unburdening your life and living more lightly with fewer distractions that would interfere with a good life, as defined uniquely by each individual. That was a quote from Linda Breen Pierce. And today we're going to be talking about minimalism and a different way to achieving happiness as opposed to just having more and more things. So hello and welcome to the Growth Mindset podcast. In our modern hustle and bustle society, the always on culture, it just feels natural to overcommit to many things. It just keeps on happening without us realizing. Work priorities, side hustles, portfolio careers, self-improvement, all these things mean we can just pile up a bunch of responsibilities. And then there's your actual life to be getting on with, trying to be social, trying to have time for your family and your friends, and then your friends' problems and their kids' problems, and your failing love life, finding time for birthdays, weddings, and all of these people that you would have probably forgotten about if it wasn't for social media, but you somehow feel some responsibility to do something involved in their life that you really shouldn't. And then there is just social media and liking things, posting things, watching things mindlessly, trying to create things that perhaps enough people would want to also watch mindlessly, but they probably never will. You should also find some time to feed yourself, perhaps maybe feeding other people as well. And despite this and our lack of time, we somehow do manage to feed ourselves, often too much. And if we're really, really lucky, we might even find some more extra time to put towards making some headspace to then work out a way of feeding ourselves slightly less than we actually need to, so we might be the correct weight. This is odd, right? And I haven't really gotten to our hobbies or our creative pursuits or the important time needed to philosophize about the point or pointlessness of our existence. To be honest, that whole tangent there is giving me some anxiety and probably you as well. Doing too many things stresses us out. We never have enough time, so we just complain with a lot of the time that we do have about the time that we don't have. And it doesn't make any sense. And when we start different projects and do different things, we'll find that we won't be as successful as we like in them. And we find that we can't enjoy our time off. We'll find that we won't get as much sleep as we like. We'll find that we won't have as much health as we like. And generally, we are just going to end up complaining more. One really fantastic way to complain less is to do less. Because when you're doing less, there'll be less things to go wrong, less things to fix, and less of the other things that you're doing will impact the things that you are doing, and you're more likely to actually do the things that you're doing correctly. When you do less stuff, you just have a clearer mind, and you're more aware of how you can make things work, and you're more aware of what your purpose is and what you're doing each day. And you just feel much less overwhelmed or overworked or stressed. And it makes the whole existence of being a human much simpler than trying to overcomplexify everything and fit everything in all at once. We really do need to learn how to slow down some more, which is hard when we just have so much demand for our attention and an expectation from society that we should be doing a side hustle and working on our self-improvement priorities and our relationships and being good parents or children. And it's just very overwhelming. And there is just a much more simpler strategy that is more fulfilling than trying to do everything. When you have less things, it's much easier to live. You have less things breaking, less things that need insurance, less things that need being claimed. You don't need to pack as much stuff whenever you go somewhere, if you're moving flat or house. So having less stuff is just nicer. So minimalism or like semi-minimalism can just make you much happier because you just have so many less problems to deal with on a day-to-day basis. You have less things to complain about, and you have more time for yourself to do the few things that you care about when you've actually worked out what they are. This is something that if you've ever traveled for a while, any person that ever goes on a very long hike or goes traveling around the world with a backpack will experience the feeling of having too much stuff and realizing after a few weeks, they just need to send half of it home because they're not using most of it and it's just really bloody heavy. The less stuff you have when you travel, the better. Because every day when you get to a new place, you have less stuff to unpack, less stuff that's in the way of the things that you do need to get to. And it takes a lot less time to then pack it all back up when you're going somewhere else. And you don't have to carry the whole stuff, which is just cripplingly annoying. And so actually having stuff really holds you back when you're trying to travel, whether that's because you're hiking and carrying it, or even if you're just hopping between cities or like going to go to different places. Just the less stuff you have, so much more liberating and enjoyable as an experience. And I also find the same that when you're traveling, the less stuff you try to do, the better, because when you're trying to fit everything in and you've got 2 different museums to visit before lunch, and then you're going to see a few different sites in the afternoon, and then you're going to a new city the next day, it's just overwhelming and exhausting. You don't have time to enjoy it. Whereas actually, if you spend like 1 month, maybe 3 months in a new culture, just staying kind of in the same city, perhaps doing some like tours on the weekend, but you get to like embrace hobbies and engage with the local people and the culture, you actually learn a lot more, I think, and experience something in a much deeper way. And so for traveling, having less and doing less is much more enjoyable experience, but it's the same for life, as in it would be ridiculous to try and have 100 cars for most people because, just so many different insurances to work out. There'd always be a car being fixed and stuff. It would just be outrageous. And yet lots of people still have more cars than they might need. And if you live in a city, you might not even need a car. And it's the same with just like the number of tech devices that you have and clothes, other trinkets and random stuff. It's just the more things you have, the more responsibilities you have, and the more problems you have. And thus, if you want to complain less, having less stuff is really nice and a good way of doing it. Again, the more things that you do, the more responsibilities that you have, the more problems that those things will cause you, the more times different things will go wrong within your responsibilities, and the more time that will just be taken off you dealing with stuff, and the less time that you'll have for just like chilling and enjoying the things that you do. There's a famous quote from Tenzin Palmo that says, "One of the advantages of being born in an affluent society is that if one has any intelligence at all, one will realize that having more and more won't solve the problem. Happiness does not lie in possessions or even in relationships. The answer lies within ourselves." If we can't find peace and happiness there within ourselves, it's not going to come from the outside. And so often we just look for new relationships, new things, new tech, new projects, new jobs to try and be the source of our happiness. And yet actually those things just bring us more problems, especially when we haven't fixed the internal needs and problems that we have within ourselves. And so really stripping these things away and working out how to enjoy life with less sets you up for so much more success. And I would recommend absolutely anyone to go traveling for more than a month somewhere where you just carry all of your possessions with you on your back and see a bit of appreciation of what you do and don't really need. And this is actually a very stoic concept of when things go wrong, what are the important things in your life? Most of the important things are all there, and you can be happy with very little. And so most of the different things that we spend our time stressing out about aren't even the things that we need. And so we're complaining about lots of stuff that isn't even important. A lot of our problems are basically self-inflicted stupidity things that aren't helpful at all. When you think about it, it's very relieving because you're like, actually, happiness isn't so much of a really hard thing that's going to be achieved after like a huge amount of crazy, huge goals that I can accomplish. It's more of a, how can I be a bit more chilled and like just look at the positive sides of a situation, kind of just enjoy wherever I'm at and just appreciate the moment for what it is. Now, that might sound a bit airy-fairy, but take it from me, it certainly helped. And the reason I want to talk about this is because when you're doing things, are you doing them too much to the point where you exhaust yourself, or are you doing them in a way that you can enjoy yourself? Because it is enjoyable to be someone who can show up with a bang and delight people. It's enjoyable to have positive energy for the things that you do. It's enjoyable to feel like you're giving everything that you do your best shot. However, if you're doing too many things, you exhaust yourself. You'll cut yourself off from the source of your actual brilliance. You won't be able to put yourself forward when you're exhausted. You may experience lots more opportunities in the moment to be great, and yet you'll reduce your chances of ever being great in any given moment because you're exhausted. So when you do too much, you're more likely to feel imposter syndrome and feel that you aren't talented. The issue is that you're slicing your talent into 1,000 pieces, trying to use it everywhere and actually just throwing it away. And an analogy that I came up with that if you want to break a window, you'll throw a rock at it and not a handful of dust. If you're doing a million different things, your energy is dissipating in small levels that aren't ever going to go above the threshold to do something properly. So your talent belongs together. So be kind to yourself and spread yourself thickly. Okay, so my sincere apologies if that was a bit lectury. You'll be pleased to know that in the second half, we'll be having story time and lighter reflections on what things mean to us. Another recent experience I've had is that I've just come back from a hiking trip with a friend who was walking the entire coast of Britain. You might think of Britain as a small place and the coast like an easy thing to walk, but remember that Britain isn't famous for its nice weather, and actually it is mostly coastline, so it's over 11,000 miles, which if you were to walk 10 miles a day would take you 3 years. Or if you want to imagine the world, it's about twice the distance of London to Beijing, which I still find hard to believe, but it's true. So you can Google it. I'm not lying to you. Now, he's doing this to raise money for the mental health charity Mind. His name is Jamie Lloyd. You can find him on Instagram, Right Errant. If you want, I'll put the links in the show notes. Epic individual. And his mission is it's just full of difficulties for him to overcome every day. And also there's of course, the issue of the entire just physical difficulty of it all, just carrying all of his gear and food with him every day. And it really helps build the appreciation of simplicity, because there's the saying of perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. And when he's packing, Jamie is like, I don't need this, I don't need that. He's thrown away his first aid kit. He doesn't have gaffer tape. He doesn't have extra maps. He doesn't have anything just in case. Everything is essential to him every day, or it's not in his bag because he can't take that stuff. Now, there's the other quote of you have succeeded in life when all you really want is only what you really need. And I think doing this adventure for Jamie is really like teaching him so much about what is essential in life versus what are the things that you just have because you think you need them. And he actually broke up with his girlfriend that he had, who was like, actually, turns out she does have some things that are actually just going to be incompatible with me. There's no point carrying on in this relationship. And yeah, he just seems to be learning so many different things. So I got to spend 5 days with him in the kind of beautiful simplicity of his life. And besides understanding the simplicity of like what you need on a day-to-day basis, there's also the simplicity of just, he's got one major goal and that's it. All he's doing is trying to walk the entire coast of Britain. And it's a huge goal, but he wakes up with every day and like, he's either too tired to walk far or he isn't, and he'll walk far. And it's not like he's trying to do 5 different projects and balancing them all. It's just a pretty clear goal. So some days he'll walk really far, some days he won't walk so far, and occasionally he will have the day off. But every day that he walks a mile is 1 mile less that he has to do, and he's just notching away at the total miles he has to do, slowly edging his way around Britain. And it's like this monumental task that when he started was just, I remember the first few months and it just looked like he'd gone nowhere. And then I didn't see him for a few months, and then suddenly it's just like, bang, he's just gone so much further. It's just amazing to see how much you do when you just do a little bit every day. And often in life, we have these ideas for these big goals that we want to reach really quickly, and we just won't put that much time into them, or we'll give up after putting a bit of time into it, or we'll get distracted by some other things that we'll start doing. And like, we just don't prioritize stuff when we're trying to do too many things. But if we just keep going towards one major thing, if we just inch towards our goal every day and just show up when we're tired or when it's hard, everything that we do towards a goal is progress if we just keep going. And it's just so remarkably obvious for Jamie and what he's doing on his project that it's just very interesting to think about for anyone that has a big project, whether you're an entrepreneur or like you want to do a side hustle or like your career. It says a year is a very long time that you can make a huge amount of difference on if you're working towards it. Like a writer or a podcaster, but if it's just like a bit of a side project that you're not really thinking about and you're just not putting the hours into, you're just not going to move that needle very far at all. And you just see this so many times with people that they'll get lost, is that they'll start something with a bit of enthusiasm and they just have slightly too many things on. It's not that And it's not that they dislike the thing that they were doing. They just get a bit lost with a few other things. And like one difficult moment or difficult decision comes up that they're just not quite sure what to do and like, as in what to make. And so they just sort of stop making any progress on the project. Whereas Jamie will have a day where there's no good option for him to do. It'll be like, okay, I've got to cross this river here or there. Either way, I'm going to get wet and it's going to be crap. I'm just going to do it. And you just have to deal with it because if there's no other option. Whereas if you have a project that has a bit of an issue where you're not sure what to do about the rebranding and you just don't do anything, you just sort of stop getting enthusiasm for it and you'll just be doing other things. And it's just very easy to drop things when you're doing too much stuff. But if you're doing less and it's something that's important to you, you can just keep on dealing with the problems even when there's a hard decision to make. And I think there's just something very noble and satisfying about having one really big goal that you chip away at daily and you can make progress on. It's just undeniable that if Jamie keeps on waking up each day and doing some walking, he will get to the end of his mission. Whereas there's so many things that we start in life that actually we may never actually finish. And even most of the things we probably won't finish. Another thing that I kind of appreciate is that all of the gear that he's using, as I said, was very essential, but he also uses it to the max. Like he's going to wear through 6 pairs of hiking boots by the time he's finished. And he's had to replace lots of his kit and just made me reflect on how much hiking gear I've had that like never wore out. It just got old. Like I never even used it properly. Like I may have paid £100, £200 for something or $300, whatever you want to call it. And like most of that money went to it just like sitting somewhere in my house rather than getting like used to the point where it was actually no longer usable and had to be thrown away. And so much of our stuff that we buy without properly using it, and so much of your life doesn't expire from use, but actually from lack of use and just sitting there. You do really just want to like do less stuff and have less stuff and do them properly and use it properly and make the most of everything that you have rather than trying to get involved with lots of different things that you aren't using or doing properly. So when we take on new things, we should really consider if we want to give our everything into it and do it properly like my friend Jamie or Derek Sivers, rather than be spreading ourselves really thin, trying to do a million things and wasting money buying lots of stuff and wasting our talent doing stuff that we're not going to do properly. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, I'm a podcaster. We like being rated, so you can leave me a rating. If you don't want to leave me a rating, you can wait for the show to improve. That's also fine with me. Life is to be enjoyed, and enjoyment is not something that is to be put off to the future. Thank you so much for listening.
Go you!
Your consistency to reach the end of an episode is legendary.
My hero!
If you have any ideas or feedback for the show, I'm always interested to hear from you.
You're the best!
Studies show we need time for information to sink in, so I'm going to give you a 5-second pause, silence, to reflect on one idea from the show before you jump back into your busy life. Ready and go.